The first operating condition that Charles talked about is alignment. Now, I have narrowed down what we're going to talk about because we only have 50 minutes to cover this. So we're going to talk mostly today about positioning your business for growth. So positioning this means that you need to have a very, very clearly defined market. Remember, Charles talked about the magnifying glass. The tighter you focus that beam of light, the more likely you are to be able to start a fire. And the same is true in a business. So focus is critical. Having a competitive offering is obviously essential. Then you've also got to have systems in place that allow your business to scale, and you've got to have the right talent. So those are all involved in positioning a business for growth. I have asked Silencia Cox and Allison Seabeck to join me in this talk for very specific reasons because they have skills in these areas. So let me introduce them. Allison Seabeck is the executive director for the Warehouse Business Accelerator. That's a scale-up accelerator in Loveland that works with technology and advanced manufacturing companies. She recently left ProSci, which is a consulting company in the global training and consulting business. And she was the president there, where she expanded their global distribution channels dramatically and overall just built up the business to triple revenue and growth through a business model shift that she put it through. When she left, they had 90 employees in the US, Canada, and Australia. Silencia is the CEO of MotherLove. They make herbal products for moms and babies, very cool products. The company was actually founded by her mom 30 years ago and built into a lifestyle business by her mom. Silencia worked there from childhood in different roles. And I mean, they were making the product in crack pots originally. Not so much anymore because Silencia took over in 2016 and has really scaled this business into 8 million, I believe. They are now they have a modern USDA certified organic manufacturing facility, and they distribute products all over the nation. So please welcome Silencia and Allison. So the question we're going to ask in this session is this business growth capable? And that's something you should be asking about your business. Is it growth capable? So the first question I want to ask you, ladies, is how did you evaluate the market opportunity for your business? You want to start?
Sure. I think one of the interesting things that Charles touched on was that the length of time that you've been in business has no bearing on what stage you're in. And both of our stories, I think, have a component of being an organization that had been in place for years, in my case, 14 years. And I inherited an organization that had a legacy of a really clear focus on what we were trying to do. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit more over the next hour. But knowing who we were as an industry leader with a research base, all the things Charles was just talking about really rung true. We studied how organizations make change and what leaders can do to more effectively bring about change. And this research backing was what helped us evaluate our market. Yes.
Do we need to move forward here? Let's try moving the seat forward. I noticed when Charles was shifting around, he got better results. Okay, testing.
How's that? Testing. Testing. It's really cutting in and out still.
Can you guys hear?
You can hear.
Okay. Okay. Are we small enough that we can go without mics?
No, he's saying no in the back. Yeah. Okay.
I think I am.
Let's keep trying. And if our sound guy can come help do it.
We're getting a lot of in and
Feedback
out.
on the mic.
Yeah, I'm trying to adjust. I'm still not cooperating.
Well, we'll see. We'll just keep going. Okay, so talk about the.
Yeah, so we were able to use our research platform to evaluate what else was going on in the marketplace. So when studying empirically what do you do to lead change? How do you manage change as an organization? And do you use any outside resources or consultants to help you manage change? That gave us a direct view into what was happening in the marketplace. which really supported our clear focus on who we were, what we were doing, and why this particular approach was a unique voice in the marketplace.
Okay, so it looks like we're kind of going in and out again. I'm not sure where you went, but hopefully we'll
See how this one is.
Yeah, so Silencia, go ahead and talk about it from your point of view.
From our point of view, we manufacture products, so we're, unlike service-based industry, we're actually making a finished good that we're selling, and part of our ability to focus was looking for a niche that wasn't being filled. We were founded over 30 years ago, so herbal products and organic products weren't as hip and cool as they are now, and they're not nearly as high in demand. So it was kind of an emerging market that we leaned into, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry of natural products, organic foods, etc. But looking kind of for those emerging opportunities and what's unique that nobody else is doing in the marketplace was our original position. And then within that, what do we do that's unique that nobody else is doing? And for us, it was pregnancy, breastfeeding, mom and baby products. Rather than making something for everyone and trying to compete against everybody who makes a lotion or a shampoo or some sort of immunity blend, there's a lot of saturation in that. Looking for something that's really unique and a niche, which we can become the experts in. So we really built the industry around natural and organic mom and baby products because it was a niche that nobody else was doing at the time. So I encourage you to look for what is emerging, what are the trends in the market, where are you going to lean in and at the right time, and what are you doing that other people aren't doing? How are you doing it better? Even if it is something that others are doing, how are you creating something of value that's better than what's already out there? And really focusing on that niche allows for you to dominate that space.
One of the things in the research was the importance of having a unique point of view. And Charles called it being a thought leader, but having a unique point of view on the herbal market, having a unique point of view on the consulting market. In my own businesses, we've tried to really focus in on what is that unique point of view. Talk about how you struggled with that and then how you arrived at it.
For us, the unique point of view was more what, as I said before, like what are we doing that's different, and being willing to kind of take a gamble on things that weren't so normal. Herbal supplements is an industry that's huge now, but 30 years ago it wasn't something as much that people were willing to explore. So having the ability to push into something that's a unique offering or not as common, but we really looked at it from the perspective of the need base. It was to serve moms in that special time of life when they're pregnant and breastfeeding and providing something that is organic, that's natural. Like moms do their research when they're having babies. They're willing to look at what's best out there. They're willing to spend more on organic. Like, that was a unique crossroads that both of those conditions were perfect for our particular product.
How about you, Allison? Because you have a completely different offering.
In the consulting space, traditionally, you have a model that's time plus human beings, the number of hours they have in the day, times the rate that you can charge, and that's how you bill for your consulting time. The thought change and the unique voice was that we don't want to be the busload of change consultants coming to your organization. We want to be the people that teach you how to have a capability for change in your own organization. And that conversation was over and over very refreshing to have with our customers and clients. They're going, okay, I can see at a very core level that if I learn how to do this change leadership thing well, I'm going to be more effective across the long term. We were looking for businesses that wanted to know, how do I do this myself? Not, how can I bring in a bunch of people to do this for me? And that unique voice, based in research, and we want to teach you how to lead change, was really what won the day in many, many of our early customer conversations and continue to be a part of the legacy of ProSci.
Okay, cool. So I also found focus to be an incredibly important part of my business. I started 2 financial technology companies, software, and the first time we went after it, we were like kind of all over the place, and it wasn't focused even on financial services, it was all kinds of industries. And a consultant came in and told me that magnifying glass metaphor and said, this is how you get well, and he used the ant. I try to use leaves now when I talk about this instead of ants. Yeah, I am kind of that sadistic sometimes, but no, I'm not. But the idea of being able to focus had such an impact on our business when we focused on a really, really tight niche. It made it easier for us to market the product. It made messaging easier. It made it easier to recruit and train a sales team. It made it easier to recruit and train the product people. It made it easier to get referral business. So it seemed like we were saying no to a lot of businesses, and that was scary. But in my experience, focus actually is what made the business explode. Do you see?
Absolutely. I that feeling of saying no to people who want to put money in your bank account is so strange, especially coming out of the startup mindset. But knowing what you're all about and being willing to show additional options and direct people in a different direction was the lifeblood of our customer conversations. And it feels awkward and it's not expected from some customers who think that you should do exactly what they need in a customized way that they need it. And I hope we'll get to talk about this in a little bit in terms of how you balance that need to say no with a mentality of customer success and of enabling the organizations that you're serving if you're a B2B or enabling your customers if you're a B2C business to get the value that they need, but telling them no. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that. For every time that you say yes to something, you have to weigh what are you saying no to.
Yes.
Because you can't say yes to everything. You'll be stretched too thin, you won't be focused enough, and frankly, it will be hard to be successful. For us, part of that focus is also really knowing our consumer. We're not making something for everybody. We don't have to study the entire demographics of the United States. We have to listen to what new and expectant moms are looking for. So that hyper focus on our demographic allows us to frankly be experts in it and be better at it and better serve our customer, because you know your customer better when you're really focused on their particular need state.
And you mentioned being able to hire and attract talent with that narrow focus, and I would reiterate that we saw that coming through very clearly in the people that we were bringing into the business, and also in the alignment across the organization. When you repeat your vision and your mission and who your target customer is and who your target customer is not, that gets permeated into the decision-making of the rest of the organization, which again is that part of that platform that enables you to scale and grow. When you're no longer the sole person making the decisions for your business, you have to rely on alignment with everyone else in the organization on that clear focus of what you're doing and what you're not doing.
And in my experience, the one that was hardest to get under control was me. Because you see all these opportunities, but it's also, I think, really important to get salespeople under control. Because, it's like you want to grab it, but there's a customer here, why wouldn't we say yes? But to your point, you got to say no to something. When you say yes, you're saying no to something else. So talk about what you did to differentiate from the rest of the market. So like herbal products is a big market. You have to differentiate not only from the general market, but also for maternity products and baby products, but also from people that are directly competing with you. How do you go about that? And talk about the problems that you're looking into there.
Sure. At our core, we're an herbal-based company, so we're naturally focused. There's a ton of baby products out there. We're really hyper-focused on organic and natural. So that's a big differentiator for us. How we do business is another big differentiator for us. We're a B Corp. For those of you that don't know what a B Corp is, it's a corporation model in which you use use metrics of people and planet as well as profits to measure your success as a business. And speaking that message that you're doing something good for your community, doing something good for the planet that we all live on is a message that really resonates with a lot of our core demographics. So that kind of differentiates our brand from others out there. And then, there's so many different ways in which products go to market, whether it's B2C or B2B. We do both. We're sold in retailers, so we'll sell directly, and then the consumer can find us on store shelves, as well as on Amazon, which Amazon is really a game changer for most of the retail industry. For those of you that are in retail, I'm sure that you know that Amazon changed things a lot. And we had to look at where our consumer was and kind of make those adjustments according to kind of what they were looking for. For a new mom, she is not sleeping, her baby's crying, she's in the middle of the night, she's gonna jump on the internet and have something drop shipped to her house the next day. Where it used to be like, oh, they're across town, you find it at Whole Foods, we used to try and help people find the product near them. And we really had to shift our mindset of like, okay, who's their demographic, what do they need, when do they need it, what are the platforms they're using? I don't love selling our products on Amazon, but that's where people are looking for our products, and that's where we have to go. So listening to where your consumer is and looking for those market trends, if we wouldn't have made some of the shifts around our retail model and how e-com was disrupting that, we would have had a really rough couple of years. So making sure that you're kind of adjusting with the winds that are out there and in the industry that you're in is really important.
You want to turn that too? Yeah, I think your model is really concrete in understanding and differentiating in the marketplace. What we had was the opportunity to create a new discipline. You can now be a change management professional. There is a change management professional association that has accreditation, and that came about in a large part because of the financial backing that we gave to that organization and that industry. And so in this emerging market where you're doing something new, you need to look bigger than just your own product and your own revenue channels, but how can you influence the customers? In our case, it was businesses and professionals working inside our client organizations. What do they need to be successful? And how can I build my business through supporting them both directly and in professional development opportunities for them to
Can everybody hear Allison okay now? We get on the mic? Awesome. Okay, so when you both took over the businesses, you had to make, of course, corrections. So I want to talk about that and what kinds of things you had to change and how you went about changing them to position the business to grow.
For us, it was, we were just so focused on our consumer and the product that we were offering that that was all of our focus. We didn't have a model for the team to kind of grow within that. It was just kind of like everybody wore multiple hats and everybody jumped in full steam, and all of us cleaned the bathroom on a Friday and everybody was answering the phone, and we all had a role there, but it was very mixed and blended. So looking at how to really create organizational structure was huge for us. So there's somebody who's the expert in marketing and somebody who's the expert in sales, and that we're all able to silo a little bit more and go deeper into our roles rather than wider. Having an organization with many jacks of all trades, but master of none, when you're trying to scale, eventually will be detrimental because there's no defined responsibility for any one role. So that was a big shift we had to make. And the other big shift I would say would be around how we track our revenue and expenses. Revenue just walked through the door and we're like, great, we don't know how to quantify what is good revenue. We don't know how to shift if that revenue stream turns off or one of our customers goes out of business. And so we learned some hard lessons in having to create a structure around finance. And what a model that we've kind of gone to is budgeting for 3 scenarios every year. So we have a middle, low, and high, and we operate to our middle scenario. It's the most likely outcome. The low would be if something really bad happened, and the high would be if something really great happened. But along with that, we track our expenses to those revenue plans. So when you are off track on your mid, or you're not hitting your metrics that you think you're going to, which sounds like it's more common than many of us are willing to admit. What are the levers you can pull to strip out some expenses? Where are you going to pull some things out? What is the low-hanging fruit that you can take out of the expense structure in order to remain profitable and keep your business open? Because if you don't have a backup and your only plan is hope, then you might find yourself in a really hard spot at the end of the year.
We had an opportunity, because the business had been going for 15, 16, 17 years, to change everyone's mindset. We were in that $2 million to $10 million plateau, and it was clear that we needed to do some very basic things differently, and the time was now. And that's the reason I accepted the role when it was offered, was because I saw there were some clear opportunities to think differently as an organization, to change mindsets amongst our staff, who are very dedicated, loyal employees with a lot of potential. They've been ingrained in a system where we were saying no to our customers, where we weren't doing really any official marketing or sales or customer relationship management. And we had an opportunity to transition. It was about a 5-year process to think about going from a transactional business, which was an intentional part of the plan to try and get us to be repeatable, to try and get us to be very clear about what we did and what we did not do, to move into a relational mindset. And this was not just my own great idea, but came out of discussions from our leadership team, of a rallying cry. We're going to take this business from transactional to relational. If you're in the technology space, you're familiar with the customer success mentality. We brought in experts, and that was the other piece of that transition when I came on board, recognizing that I am in no way an expert on global distribution. I am in no way an expert on leading change at Fortune 500 companies. I am in no way an expert at building a sales organization. But these are all things we need to be able to do, and we need to find the industry players who have experience and credibility that our customers want. They were expecting us to have a relationship with them and to engage that relationship in a certain way. And when we wouldn't engage in that customer success kind of mindset with some of the biggest businesses in the country, they kind of rolled their eyes and said, "Who are you, and why should we talk to you?" And so we had to transition the way we thought and the way we engaged with our customers to be able to jump from that $6 million, $8 million plateau through to the $30 million business we became when I left.
So one of the things that we were talking about a lot with Charles Research and the three of us doing our prep work is process, and figuring out the processes that will allow the business to scale, and then figuring out how to automate them. Personally, I've over-automated too early, and that's a recipe for disaster. So talk to me about how you guys have set up process and how you approach automation and when.
Yeah, that's a great question from a manufacturing perspective. That's something we're always looking at. It's like, when do we take it to the next level? This business was started in our kitchen. We hand poured every single product. We hand labeled every single product. That process, although the way that we manufacture, instead of making it in a small crock pot, we make it in a huge crock pot now. That is repeatable and scalable. So looking at a process that you can make more of something, and how would you make more of it if you needed to? But how you make it is a big issue, was a big issue for us. At one point, we just hired more people and were pouring more products. That was not allowing us to say yes to every opportunity that came in the door. We actually said no to some retailers because we didn't think that we could keep up with their demand in doing it by hand. So that was kind of our inflection point of deciding when it was time to automate. Is we were saying no to good business because we couldn't keep up with it. We were having employees that were having repetitive motion injuries because they would force out all day long. So those were two things that weren't sustainable that we had to shift. And then when we started looking to automate, we now have an automated filler. We had to kind of make sure it was the right piece of equipment for our unique type of product. We had to make sure that we could afford it. So you're looking at how are you going to leverage? Are you going to take loans? Are you going to pull cash out of the business? Like, how are you going to afford it? And what's your return on your investment on it? In 18 months, we calculated about 18 months, this machine would pay for itself and cost of some of those injuries that we were experiencing alone, not even looking at labor costs. And then what are the lost opportunities? We kind of quantified how much that account could have potentially been if we would have been able to say yes to it at that time. So kind of looking at more just like it feels right to do it now, like what are some real metrics on when you will get a return on that investment, and those are some of the ones that we looked at as we were scaling.
In a people-oriented service business, which there was a component of providing training in our business model, the point of process that became the pain point for the impetus for revamping our processes and making them really focused on scale was the repeatability. So if we have 4 great instructors or 4 great consultants, we can get together, share what happened last week, tweak, be really agile with the training program, and go out the next week and deliver an even better program in 4 different locations. Well, when you increase that to 400 instructors around the world, you can't do that same thing. And so the process of engaging, onboarding, teaching those instructors or those consultants to replicate what you're trying to do became essential for quality and repeatability. And so our process improvement journey took the form of manufacturing, business process reengineering. You know, the science behind that applies still to the people, but we had to think about not just how do we repeat this in one classroom and the next one next door, but how do we repeat this around the globe in different cultures, in different languages, and what are the core human needs that each person responsible for that outcome has to have in place so that they're ready to perform at the level and produce the quality of results that you're expecting of your customers.
So I want to just get a show of hands and who we're speaking to. How many of you are B2C, business to consumer? Okay, how many of you are B2B? Wow, and how many of you are both? Okay, so that's why we had somebody there. Okay, so it's nice that we've got a B2C and a B2B, and I've always been B2B in my career too. I think that there's a lot of differences in the types of processes that you have to be thinking about when you're selling to different kinds of groups. So hopefully you can take away some of the concepts here for your business. And I want to turn it over to questions in a couple minutes here. So let's talk about scaling and creating the organizational mindset that you had to do in order to get your team on board with the idea of what it's going to take to grow this business.
I really liked what Charles was describing in terms of telling people what this is going to feel like. If you have been a part of a traditional, I see Lisa, a bank, there's a lot of change going on, but you may have a certain set of expectations of what it feels like to come to work every day. If you have come out of a startup environment, you have certain expectations of what it's going to feel like every day. And we spent a lot of time talking about what is normal, how to have endurance during this long, arduous process. We hope next year is going to be easier and there don't need to be as many heroes that are carrying those long day loads. But the reality is there probably will be some of our team that needs to carry that load next year, and they're hoping that they don't have to, and they will. So we've instituted some internal programs for the whole organization to teach about decision quality, how you make good, effective decisions based on the values and the mission and vision of the organization. We talked about emotional intelligence and how you navigate understanding how you're feeling in a given moment and how that influences your interactions with someone else and how they're feeling influences their interactions with you. We spent a lot of time and energy working on teaching leadership skills, not just to our top executives, but throughout the organization. Crucial conversations, how to handle conflict. And it feels like a lot of the touchy-feely HR stuff, but it was that intentionality and those programs around the mindset of our workforce that enabled us to talk as well about what it feels like to scale and what we need from you. And we know it's hard, and you don't have to just dictate this is what you must do, but we have to help you get from here to there, up to a point until it's clear that this isn't the place that you want to be. But if you want to be here, we want to help you make that transition.
Yeah, I think that mission and vision are super important. Having alignment, like we're all here, our mission is to do X. We're all in agreement that we're here to do that. And vision is, this is where we're going. And your role as an organization is to be a captain of a ship that you want to be sure that everybody on that ship is rowing in the same direction. And that there's not some people who are like, we're rowing, wait, what? Repeating that message again and again. For us, it's like, I know you guys have heard this before, but I'm just gonna say it again. Like, I talk every time we have an all-staff meeting, which is every month. We talk about our mission, we talk about what we're here doing, we talk about our vision. Like, we constantly check back in with that vision of where we're going. So it's not a surprise to people when they're like, well, I thought we were all going different places. We just need that alignment. And for us, the biggest tool for that has been just transparency. We get together, we talk about how we're doing, we celebrate our wins, we're frank about the challenges that we face, so everybody in the organization is well informed, on the same page, and willing to tackle the challenges that are ahead. When we have sales challenges, we have to be able to say, hey, this is what we're facing, are you guys in? And the truth is that you're never going to make everybody happy. There's some people that are going to say, oh, I don't think that's a good decision. But being honest and frank about it is the only way to get through that. Some people are going to select out. Some people are going to say, I don't want to be in an organization that's a $30 million organization. I like to work for $5 million. Some people are going to choose to leave. Making sure you have the right people on the right seat of the bus is super important because you need those people rowing in the same direction to get you to where your vision for your business is.
So along that seats on the bus, how many of you have more than 2 employees? Oh, a lot of you. Okay, excellent. So this is really relevant as a founder, and one of the things I struggle with the most, and this will be the last question, and then we'll turn it over to them to ask some questions. But how do you decide what you should be doing and what you should assign to somebody else and get out of the way? Because, man, I have always been part of the problem in scaling my businesses.
When we talked about this in the prep, I think we probably spent a half an hour on the topic because we got so animated about really the single most important thing that you as the leader need to do is figure out where you add the most value. And that's not necessarily where you have the most fun, always. I didn't do it well. Frankly, I found a lot of times that I was gravitating towards the stuff that I knew was easiest for me when I needed a mental break. And that undermined the people who were supposed to be responsible for that piece of the business. the thing that helped me was being transparent about that weakness and asking for accountability from my leadership team. As painful as it was, making sure that they knew I expected them to call me out when I was doing something that someone else should be doing. I think the balancing part that was a really difficult transition for me was when you're so involved in every piece of the business, you have the information in your mind that you need to make the decisions that come up. And when you turn over the reins to someone else, those decisions have a little bit less color in the information that you have. You may know the high-level details, but you may miss some of the nuances behind those high-level details. And that was a nerve-wracking position for me to be in. And so I wanted more information and I wanted to dig in, but really that shift in mindset to say the valuable things that I need to be doing are the things that no one else in the business is able to do was it was a tough transition, and the only way I got through it was being honest and transparent about that struggle and asking for accountability. How about you, Silencia?
Yeah, I would agree. It's tough because I grew up in this business. For me, I've literally done everything from making the product to selling the product to leadership. That it's hard to let those things go when it's no longer your role. That startup, you're a one-man organization, you do everything. Letting those things go is tough. It's a challenge. But like Allison said, having that frank discussion with yourself to say, am I doing something that nobody else can do? Because there are a lot of things that a CEO does that nobody else can do. And you need to really be making sure that you're focusing your time and energy on doing those things, driving your business, growing your business, making the decisions strategically to have a strong vision into the future. Nobody else is doing that but you. You are the driver of strategy, you're the driver of vision, and that has to be where you spend most of your time. The other things that are kind of on the executional side of things, you can hire people to do that. And I find that it really robs the people on your team of the opportunity for them to shine. When you say, let me help you, you're always doing it for them, or you're always the problem solver, it really it doesn't allow them to solve their own problems and grow. They're always going to be saying, what should I do, what should I do? I turn those questions back to them and say, what do you think you should do? So they're doing the work that you're paying them to do. I mean, they're bringing that spirit into your organization. Let them grow, let them figure out the problems on their own. And this was a really hard one for me. Allow people, especially yourself, to be okay making mistakes. Because if they feel paralyzed, like they can never make a mistake, I just want to check in with you on everything because I don't want to make a mistake, then it really slows down the speed at which your organization can move. And I mean, that goes for yourself as well. I mean, we've made a lot of mistakes. It's easy to sit up here and talk about your shiny, beautiful business, but oh man, it's full of mistakes. So yeah, I think just allowing your team to help you through that is really important, and being able to delegate is hugely important.
I found it the easiest to step away from things I love doing when I hired someone else that could do it better than me. That confidence that they're bringing a new perspective that was beyond my skill set and my capabilities, that was fun.
But you had to get it out of the way to figure out the right to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about you? Oh man, I still struggle with this today. I've always struggled with it. I mean, because I've built a business that I know. And so I know every aspect of it. And so getting out of the way of my partner, who's actually so much better at things like design and things like that. He's sitting right here, so I'm looking at him. I definitely have to just get out of the way and let those decisions be made. But we're a very small company. So I want to turn it over to you now. Go ahead. I'm going to repeat questions so that we make sure everybody hears.
So as a follow-on to that, you guys were just talking about, if you have a CEO who hasn't recognized he needs to move out of the way and allow some of his team to start making decisions and get more involved? Any suggestions on how to nudge that along? Stay deeply employed.
I love that. So if you're not the CEO, you need to nudge the CEO to let other people make these decisions. How would you like to be told that?
I mean, honesty, I think, is always the best way to approach a situation like that. Also, respectfully, we're adults. Don't let it build to a point that you're like so angry, you're like, I'm leaving if this doesn't change. Like having those frank, hard conversations in a respectful way. We all are, like, as leaders, as anybody in any organization, we're growing every day. And have to be willing to grow and change. If we had it all figured out, we wouldn't be here. So, from my perspective, I want to get better at what I'm doing, and feedback is important. But how you get that feedback is going to make or break how that message lands.
Sure. So by putting together maybe like a succession plan, would that maybe prompt back to maybe start heading in that direction?
I think maybe, I don't know your particular situation, but asking the question, is there a succession plan? What's next? And there, putting together a plan and presenting it to them from them not even having an idea that this is even something in your head might feel like, whoa, it might be too much, rather than kind of just starting that conversation to even take the temperature of how they're feeling, or if they're open to that,
Right.
Probably help kind of guide that decision or that conversation.
The concept of risk identification was one that resonated well with me when someone approaches and says, I see a potential risk in our organization down the line, without necessarily a whole backing of specific actions to come with just an open dialogue. I responded well to the conversations that started with, I see a risk and would like your permission to talk about this openly, and then bring it forward.
Another thing is that it prevents scale. So if the owner is looking to want to scale, the owner not taking that direction prevents scale. Back here, Larry?
Yeah, a strongly worded letter would be good.
Anonymous?
Anonymous. Just LinkedIn under the door. So yeah, asking for a friend, very good. Silencia, you brought up Amazon, and I hate to bring it back up, but
No,
you said it was a problem for 2 years, and that makes me think that you solved it.
So he's talking about Amazon and the problems it's created for her business. So,
I mean, Amazon is a moving target. I mean, they change their rules all the time without telling you. It's not solved. There's no.
Have you learned to live with them to some extent? Because it's really, I mean.
In some ways, it's diversified our customer base because we're going B2C through Amazon and reaching so many more people directly. Our margins are higher going B2C as well. So you have some diversity there, but if they decide to shut off one of your listings for unknown reason, then like that revenue stream just turns off overnight. And trying to call customer service at Amazon is a black hole. It never ends. What we've done, the way that we've tackled it the best is by taking over all of our listings and not allowing anybody else to list our products on Amazon. That way we can control the brand a lot better and have a pricing structure which is much more equal across the board, rather than kind of that race to the bottom that the Amazon buy box can be. But yeah, it's a moving target. We work on it every day.
So we're going to take one more question and then break for lunch. Go ahead.
So I love what you guys said about niching out and focus. It's so beautiful. I've summarized down to like 3 industries that make sense in my company. But my question is, do you niche even further and choose passion? Which industry I love the most, or which one brings my company more revenue?
So the question is, when you're talking about niche and focus, should I focus on what I'm most passionate about, or the industry, the target that's going to bring the most revenue, right?
I would turn that back to you and say, what are your goals? Do you want to grow and scale as fast as you can? Which is an admirable goal. Do you want to, and in that case, you may make one choice and then come back to your passion project when you have the resources from this engine to fuel that. But if your goal is more altruistic or whatever the passion is to serve a particular area, and there is enough of a market potential there, there's a lot of great success stories of people following their passions. It might just take a bit longer.
Yeah, it's tougher to train the whole sales team and everyone because I know those three that I narrowed down to after like 3 or 4 years bring in a good revenue and they're consistent, but they're so diversely different in terms of the industry. It becomes a challenge.
Yeah, having too much diversity in your niches can really limit your ability to scale the business. But also, when you're thinking about a passion target, you have to understand whether that passion can actually pay what it is that you need to build in order to have a growing, successful, profitable business. We're going to talk about capital and cash flow in the last session, so I would recommend that you stick around for that. But niche focus is critical, but finding a niche that is lucrative is equally critical.